Hey there guys, in this video we are going to build a note-taking application with user authentication using a Node.js Express server as the backend and React.js in the front end. I'm super excited about this project tutorial because there are not a lot of tutorials out there which show you how you can actually sign users up in your app and save notes private to them in your database. One thing I would like to say is this tutorial is completely for beginners, and if you have not coded in Node or React before, you need not worry. I will walk you through all the steps in complete clarity and detail, and by the end of this tutorial, you will know exactly how you can create a full stack project using a Node server and a React frontend. Now let me show you first what we are building today. I'm not going to add much styles to it. As you can see here, the designs are not great, but it works. Okay, so how does this app function? For this app to function, if when you're registering a user, you just set the username and the password, and you hit create account. So let's just create an account. Right, do devs, and the password will be something I need to keep private, and I'll hit create account. So the account has been created. You see under notes, you will find no notes found. And that's because we have not created a node. We just created a user right now. So to create a node, I'll have to hit this plus button. I'll hit it and I'll write a note. This is a new note, and we'll hit create note. And you see this note has been created. I'll add another note. Subscribe to Duo devs. I'll create a note, and you see this is our second note here, and we can also delete a note. We'll just hit this button right here. And are you sure you want to delete this note? Yes, I want to delete this note, and yeah, that note is deleted. So subscribe to Duo devs is the note we have. Now if we sign out and then we have to sign in, I'll just put in my username, which is Duo devs, and I'll just put in my password and sign in. And you see subscribe to Duo devs is here. Now I'll create another user to show that these tasks are private to users. So let's just name it Captain Price. Password, I'll set something, and I'll create an account. And you see no notes found. And if I create a note, this note is private to Captain Price. Now create a note. This is the note we have. Now if I sign out and I sign in to the previous account we created, I sign in. See, that's the previous subscribe to Duo devs note we created. And you can also delete an account, but I'm not going to do it here. But yeah, that's the demo of our project. Also, the link to the code base is down in the description if you need to refer to that. So we are really going to have a lot of fun making this build, and hope you learn a lot from this tutorial. Okay, so before we jump in, I just want to clear out a few steps we need for development. For this tutorial, you will need to have Node.js installed. If you don't, go forward and search for Node.js in your browser. So Node.js, and yeah, go to this link for nodejs.org. Go here, and in the home screen you will find the link for downloading. I'll recommend the LTS version. You have to click it and it will download, and it's just a regular click next installer. Now you have two choices and you can choose either, but the LTS version is a bit more stable build. Along with Node.js, you'll need a text editor. For this tutorial, I'm going to use VS Code. You can choose any text editor you like, but I'll be using VS Code, and if you want to follow along, you could use VS Code. VS Code is the text editor used by most. So basically, you'll find the download button here. Just click it, and it's a similar click next installer. So yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's start by setting up the backend. To set up the backend, just move into the folder you want to create your project in. Right click and you'll find an option to open with code. Click that. Yeah, VS Code will open. So first I need you to create a directory and name it backend, and create a folder, name it app.js. Now open the terminal, new terminal, cd into the backend folder, and I need you to type npm init. This initializes our project using npm. And yeah, just hit enter and everything, and yeah. Okay, so let's start by setting up the database. To set up the database, inside your backend directory, create a folder called db. Inside that, create a file called mongoose.js. Now inside mongoose.js, oops, I'm sorry. Inside the backend directory, you need to have a source directory, source, and db and app.js need to be inside source. So app.js is inside source and db is inside source. Yep. So inside db, you have a file mongoose.js. So to do that, first let me increase the size. Yep. Okay, so first you have to install the mongoose package. So open the terminal and write npm init, not init, sorry, npm I mongoose, and hit enter. Make sure you're still in the backend directory while you hit npm init mongoose. Okay, so that's done. So what I need you to do here is write const mongoose equals require mongoose. Then you need to specify the URL. So db connect URL equals, the URL for the database will be 127.0.0.1 colon 27017. Okay, my bad. This has to be inside quotes. Yeah, 27017 slash noter. Then you need to establish a connection, mongoose.connect. Connect. Yeah, the first argument has to be the connection URL. So db connect URL, and we need to pass in an object wherein use new URL parser needs to be true, and use unified topology needs to be true. Now what I want to say is, this URL you don't want to keep in your GitHub repo or somewhere, because this you might want this URL to remain an environment variable that is not a public information. For that, we can create a environment variable in our directory. So to do that, inside your backend directory, create a folder called config. Inside that folder, create a file dev.env. This file will hold all our environment variables. So I'll save mongoose.js, and inside dev.env, I will create a new environment variable, noter mongodb URL, which will be in quotes mongodb colon 127.0.0.1 colon 27017 hash noter app. Let's name it What is this Notar app? This Notar app is the particular database for this Notar project inside MongoDB. So we'll save it. And to use this particular env in our mongoose.js file, what we have to do is remove this and write process.env dot. Now we write Notar MongoDB URL, and let's just make sure that's the name we gave here. Yep, Notar MongoDB URL. So yeah, that's how we set up the connection to the database. Okay, so let's now create our app.js file. Let's just write our app.js file. First, we need to install the Express npm package. For that, we'll open the terminal and write npm I express. Hit enter. Wait for it to install. Okay, so that's done. Now we'll write const express equals require express, and then we will require our mongoose.js file so that our app can connect to the database. So for that, we'll write /db/mongoose.js. Now we'll do this. What this does is it creates an express instance inside the app constant. Okay. After this, we need to set up cores. What it does is basically if the backend does not get an API request from the same source from where it's hosted, it will deny it if we do not set up correct cores policies. So what we'll do is app.use, give a callback, request response next, response.set access control allow origin. We'll be giving it a wildcard entry, res.set access control allow headers, will be given a wildcard access control allow methods, will be given a wildcard. Oops. Yep. And now we'll check if rest.method is options. We'll end it. Return. And then we'll give here next. Oh, why is this unsubscribed? So we use, yeah. Now we have to tell the app to expect instructions in JSON format. So app.use express.json. Now we tell what port it's going to host itself in. Either it's going to be in the env variables port or just hosted in 8000. And now we have to make the app to listen to that port. So app.listen, mention the port, and then we give a callback once it starts listening. We'll just console log that the backend is running on port, and then we'll keep this dynamic. So port, okay, for it to be dynamic, instead of quotes you need to use backticks. So yeah, when you use backticks and then you enter $ curly braces, so whatever you write inside $ curly braces will assume a value and not a string. Okay, so we'll save it, and to check if everything is running properly, we'll just open the terminal and we'll run. Okay, before doing that, we need to open package.json first, and then we need to write a script. Now, why do we need to write a script? We need to write a script so that the this db connect URL can actually talk to the env files. It cannot do it on its own. For that, we need to install a package which is npm i env cmd, env commands basically. Okay, so that's done. Now we'll write a script. So let's name the script dev. Whenever we have to run anything, we'll just type npm run dev. So let's just write the script. The script will be env cmd, give the f flag. Now where we then give the path to the environment variable, so ./config/dev.env, and then we write the script we want to run. So that will be node1. If you don't have node1 installed, I'll recommend you install it. It's a really good npm package which restarts servers on its own. So node1.src/app.js. That's it. I'll save it, and I'll open the terminal, and I'll write npm run dev. Why dev? Because dev is the name of the script we just wrote. So npm run dev, I'll hit enter, and let's just hope. Okay, backend is running on port 8000. That is really great. So now let's write the user model. First, let me just clear all this clutter here. Okay, and inside the source folder, let's create a new folder called models, because we'll have two models, one for the user and one for the nodes they store. Okay, so inside models, create a new file, user.js. Okay, first let's require the mongoose file. Oops. Yeah, use equals require mongoose. Then let's create the schema for our user model. So user schema equals new mongoose dot schema, and it will accept an object. So what are the fields we want in our user schema? First will be the username, type will be string, unique, yep, it has to be the unique distinguishing factor of that differentiates all the users, so unique will be true. It will be required for the user model to be stored, so required should be true, and trim should be true. There should not be any trailing spaces after or before the username. Next, we want to store the password, so the password also will be of type string. Required again will be true. Trim has to be, no, I don't think I should put trim true, because if the user adds a space at the end of his password, that would be intentional, so trim should not be true. And min length is the minimum amount of characters that has to be in the password. Let's just put that to be 8. Okay, so and I do want to store when the user was created, so let's just put time, not time, is times stamps. Okay, it has to be an object times stamps to be true. Okay, so now let's make the model. So const user equals mongoose.model. We'll have to first give a name, so user, and second we'll give the schema, so use schema, and we'll export the model. So module.exports equals user. Okay, that's the bare bones of our user model. There will be a lot of changes here, but for now this is what we will need. So we are done with the user model. Now we can write the beginner API routes we will need for the user. So that would be the create user. Now for the create user, let's just first inside the source directory create a folder called routes, and inside the routes let's create our file called user routers.js. First we need to require the express package, so const express equals require express. Then we'll require the user model, so const user equals to require, go back a folder with models and user, and we'll instantiate an express router instance, so new express dot router. To create a user we need to write a post request, so let's just create the first API route, so router dot post, because it's a push request. It will be on /users/create. It will be an async function, request and response, and let's instantiate a new user object, so user, and the body will be whatever comes from the front end, so user, whatever comes in the request, my bad, so user request.body. Now we'll try to save the user dot-save, and if it creates successfully we'll give a status code of 201, and we'll send the user with a message new account created. Okay, what's the error? Okay, we also have to add a catch block, so with every try block you have to add a catch block. So catch, that is if the following is not doable. Okay, I have to add an await here. So yeah, if this does not go through, this catch block will go through. So we'll just console log the error. Let's just configure some error messages. So if the user password length is less than 8, now that can be an error, so we'll just give a status code of 500, and we'll send a message that password needs to be more than 8 characters. We give extra brackets, sorry about that. Else if e.e pattern dot username equals to 1. What is this error telling us? This error is telling the user that the username he's trying to take has already been taken before. So res.status 500 dot send the message username already taken, and else in all of the conditions res status 500 dot send will send a message that something went wrong. Okay, so that was our first API route. Now how does our app.js use this user router? For that we need to go into app.js, and then just below app.use express.json we'll add the line app.use user router. User router, and we need to import this user router too. So for that, under db-mongoose.js we'll write const user router equals require slash go into routes inside user routers. Yep, that's how the app.js considers all the routes, API routes we have written in the user routers file. Okay, now let's just set up our auth middleware. Now, what is the auth middleware? The auth middleware is basically the middleware which checks and signs in all our users. So for that, go into the source directory and create a new directory, naming it middlewares. Inside the middlewares, create a new file called auth.js. Now inside auth.js we'll need a new npm package. The npm package is JSON Web Tokens. So npm install JSON Web Token. Wait for that to install. Yep, that's done. So let's just require it. Const jwt equals require JSON Web Token, and we'll also require the user model. So const user equals require models user. Now let's create our auth middleware function. So const auth equals to, it will be an async function, request response next try const token equals to request dot header authorization. Now this is the bearer token. Oops, I put a comma in here. Okay, so this token is the bearer token that comes with whenever a user signs up in our app. This token will be unique to one user for one session. When each user signs up for one session, a new token is generated. Hope that gets it clear. So we'll get that token and we'll replace it with bearer and a space. Remember this space, don't forget the space, with nothing. So what happens is, when the token comes, it will come in the form of bearer with a space and then something like this. So what we are doing is we are taking this bearer with the space, remember the space, don't forget the space, and replacing it with nothing. So what we are doing in basically is we are just extracting this particular token, the raw token. Okay, so we get the token. Now const decoded equals to JWT dot verify will verify this particular token. So we'll take the token in the first argument, and the second argument will need a JWT secret. Now this secret is something which you should never ever this is a secret which you should never tell anyone. So for that, what do you think, where do you think we should put this secret? In the env file. So inside dev.env we'll create another env variable, so nota jwt secret. This will be equal to this can be anything. You could go into random word generator or random string generator and put anything. I'll just put it noter app for due devs tutorial on MERN stack, something as idiotic as that. Okay, so in the second argument under jwt.verify we'll give this secret. So process.env.noter jwt secret. Let's just check it's what we get. Noter's jwt secret. Okay, so after we verify it, we will now find the user. So user await user model dot, we'll find one user, and what will be the ID of the user? It will be the decoded dot underscore ID, and tokens dot token has to be the token we get. Now what is this tokens dot token? We have to change our user model a bit. Go into the user model, and after the password we need to store a new field. It will be the tokens field. Now what will be the token field? It will be an array. What will be, well, what will it be an array of? It will be an array of tokens basically. So what will that token be of? It will be of type string, and required has to be true. Okay, so we just created a new tokens field inside our user schema. That makes sense? Okay, save the user model and go into auth.js. If we have not found the user, we'll throw an error. And if the user is found, the token of the request will be the token, and the request.user will be the user. And if this try block fails, we'll add a catch block with the status code of 401. 401 is the status code for unauthorized, and we'll send an error message saying unauthenticated. Okay, now we'll just export the module. So module.exports equals auth. Now let us modify the create user route we created a while back. What we have to do is we have to create a function so that a new token is generated whenever the user creates an account, and we automatically sign them in. For that, go into your user.js file, under where you have defined your schema, create a new function. So user schema dot methods dot, let's name this function generate auth token. So it will be an async function. Const user will be this. Const token will sign this one here. So what will we sign? The ID has to be user.id dot not string to string, and the second argument has to be the secret. So process.env dot noter jwt secret. User dot tokens will have the array it already had, and we will concatenate this new token into that array. So users dot tokens dot concatenate this new token. Then we will await user dot save, and then we'll return the token. We'll save it, and then we will modify our router. So after we save the user, we will generate a new token. So const token equals await user dot generate auth token, and along with the user we'll send the token as the response too. Okay, so now let's just create a few more API routes for our user. So another API route I would like to create is login the users. So login user. For that it will be a post request, router.post user /user/login. It will be an async request, so request response, and here now we need to create another function like generate auth token, where it will find a user by its credentials. So go back to the user.js file. Under the generate auth token method, write user schema dot statics dot, let's name this find by credentials. So it will be an async function. It will take the username and the password, and what will we do is const user equals to await user dot find one having the username. If we don't find the user, we'll throw an error, throw new error, unable to login. But if we do find the error, we'll just return the user. That's it. So we go back to user routers, and inside the login user post request, we'll try a new block code. So const user, it will be await user dot find by credentials, find by credentials, and it will have two arguments, the request dot user dot not user, sorry, request dot body dot username and request dot body dot password. Now every time a user makes a new sign-in, we have to create a new token too. So const token equals to await user dot generate auth token. Now if everything goes well, we'll give a status of 200 and send the user and the token. And if the try block fails, we'll have a catch block for that, where We'll give a status code of 500 and send a message unable to login. Similarly, let's create another post request to log out the user. So log out user router.post. Let's make the endpoint user/logout. Now, for the user to log out, they have to be logged in. So we will add this middleware auth. So we will add the auth middleware wherever the user needs to be logged in already. So to log out, the user has to be logged in already. So auth async request response. Now we'll add a try block. So try request.user.tokens. What we will do is we'll delete the current token that was being used. So request.user.tokens.filter. We'll use the filter method. So with every token we will find, we will return only those tokens which are not equal to the request token. So what it is doing is, it will in the request.user.tokens, it's filtering out all that particular token which is present in the request. That's all it's doing. So after that's done, we will await request.user.save, and if all that's good, we'll just send a message saying that it's logged out, that the user has been logged out. Now if the try block fails, we'll add a catch block where with a status code of 500 send the error. Now let's just create another request to get the user details. So get user details. It will be a get request. So router.get users me. To get the user detail, the user has to be logged in first. So the middleware auth function has to be there. Be an async response. Async. It has to be an async function. We'll try. No, not try. We'll just send the user. That was a simple API route. We'll need another API route to delete the user that the user wants. So router.delete /users/delete auth async request response. Of course, the user has to be logged in for him to delete. Obviously, the user has to be logged in to if the user wants to delete their account. So try request.user.remove. That's the mongoose function to delete a particular document in a collection, and we'll send the message your account was deleted along with all your data. Now if this one fails, we'll add a catch block. So rest.status 500.send. Let's send the error. And now we are done with all the API routes for the user. So we'll just export router, save it, and yep, so create user, login user, logout user, get user details, and delete user are the routes we created for the user. I would like to talk about one thing. Now, what we are exactly doing is we are saving the password of the user as is. We are not doing anything to secure the password of the user. And to increase the security, what we can do is we could hash this particular password and store that hash into our database. Now, when the user tries to log in, the input he gives for the password will hash that password and match it with the hash that is present in our database. So what it will do is, even if our database gets compromised and a hacker gets access to all the data, they will not be able to figure out the password of that particular user. So for that, we have to import a new npm package. It will be decrypt.js. So npm I decrypt.js. After that's done, we'll require it. Const decrypt, const decrypt equals to require decrypt.js, and we'll also need to import JSON web tokens. So jwt equals to require JSON web token. Now we have to hash the password before we save a user. So under the find by credentials method, user schema dot pre. So before we do the save function, what we have to do is, this will be an async function. Next, const user will be this, and if user dot is modified password. So if the password has been modified, only if the password has been modified, user dot password has to be hashed. So decrypt dot hash user dot password, and in the second argument we need to give how many times the password has to be hashed. So after hashing the password once, we can hash that hash against. So it creates layers of security. So the sweet spot which dabbles between security and speed, that number is 8. So after that's done, let's send next, save it. And I had done a small mistake in this find by credentials function. So before you return the user, we have to find a match. So const is match. We have to check that it does matches. So await decrypt dot compare. We'll compare the password and the user password which is stored in the database, and if a match is not there, we have to throw a new error saying the same message as above, unable to log in. So yeah, that was all we had to do about users. Now we will move on to storing and creating nodes. Okay, so we are done with everything in users. Now we are going to move on to nodes. So let me clear this, this, and this. And under the models directory, I'll create a new file, node.js. Here we will define our node model. So first let me require mongoose. require mongoose. Now let me define the schema. So const node schema equals new mongoose dot schema. First field will be content. It will be of type string. Required will be true and trim will be true. If you don't remember what trim is, trim will basically remove any extra spaces the user might add before or after the note. After that, we'll add who the owner will be. Now, the owner will be of type. We have to link one note created with this note model to an user from the user model. So type will be mongoose dot schema dot types dot object ID. So what this will do is this will store the object ID of one user. This will be required obviously, and the reference will be of user. User is the collection that holds all the users created for the app. Now I'll store the timestamps. Timestamps will be true and to JSON virtuals will be true. Yep. So after that, node will make the model with the schema. So mongoose.model, we'll name it note, name the collection note, and in the second argument we'll provide the schema, and we'll export the note model. That's it. That's our note model. Now we have to link the note to the users and the user model. So go back to users.js, and inside here, after we have defined the schema, we'll just type user schema dot virtual. We'll provide a virtual reference. So the collection will be notes. The reference here will be note. The local field will be the ID, because that's what the owner field under note saves, and the foreign field will be the owner. Okay, now before we move on to the the note routers, I just want to make a small change in the user.js file. Now inside the user routers, let me switch it out. Yep. Inside the user routers, and when we log in, we are sending the user. When we create a new user, we are also sending the user. Now when the user is sent, all the details of the user are sent with it. So the password and the tokens are sent with the user. We do not want to send the password and the token in the response object. So what do? Under the virtual, we'll define a new method. So user schema dot methods dot to JSON equals to, this will be a function, const user equals this, const user object is equal to user dot to object. Now we will delete user object dot password, and we'll also delete user object dot tokens. and we'll return the user object. That's it. What this will do is just make sure you write to JSON in here. That's a keyword. So what this will do is every time we return the user, this particular function will remove the password and the tokens from the response. Okay, that was it. Now let's move on to the node routers. Okay, so let's write the node routers. Under routes, create a new file, node routers.js. Inside node routers, let's first require the express module. Require express. Now let's require the node module, node model, my bad. Require, go back to directory, go into models, node. And we also have to require the auth middleware, because a user should not be able to create a node if he has not signed in. So auth equals require, go back a folder, go into middlewares, auth. And not just creating a node, all the functionalities relating to nodes should not be allowed if a user is not authenticated. So const router equals to new express.router. Now let's write the first API route, create node. It will be a post request, so router dot post /node/create. This will be having the auth middleware. It will be an async function, request response. Now const node will make a new instance of the node model where it will have the pre-existing body and the owner will be request.user.id. Yep. So now we'll try to save the node. Await node.save, and if it goes successfully, we'll make a status code of 201, which is for created, and we'll send the node and the message node saved. Now we'll also make a catch block if the try block fails. So res.status 500 and send the error. Now let's make some more API routes. So then will be get all nodes. Now it will be a GET request, so router.get /node/get auth async request response try await request.user.populate nodes. Populate is a Mongoose function. You can read upon it in the Mongoose documentation, and we'll just send the request.user.nodes, and we should give a status code also. So res.status 200, and we'll add a catch block. So well, we don't have to log the error. We'll just send the error. Let's give it a status code of 500. Okay, that's get all nodes. Now let's try getting a node. Get one node by ID. And let's do router dot get slash nodes slash colon ID. This will also have the auth middleware, async, request response, try, const node equals to await node dot find by ID, where the ID is request dot params dot ID. If we don't find the node, we'll return a 404 error. 404 is not found, and we'll send nothing, and then we'll send a node if the node is found. Now let's add the catch block. Rest.status 500.send the error. Save it. Now let's add the final router to delete a node. So delete one node. Router dot delete. This will be a delete request. So slash nodes slash ID. This will have the auth middleware, async, request response, try, const node equals to the same code we wrote up, node dot find one and delete. Not the same code, I'm sorry. ID will be request dot params dot ID. If we don't find the node, return the 404 error. And if we do find the node, send the message node was deleted. If the try block doesn't go through, we'll add a catch block. Rest.status 500.send error. And now we are done with all the routers, so let's just export the router. Module.exports router. Let's just import it in our app.js. So here under app.use, let's just import it first. Const node router equals require routers, and let's use the node router here. Okay, so that's it with all the node routers. Okay, so we are done with our backend. Yep, we are done with our backend, and we will start with the front-end development. But let's just make sure our backend is running properly. So open the terminal and write npm run dev. If you remember, that's the script we wrote in our package.json file. And make sure you're in the backend directory. So npm run dev and hit enter. And okay, auth is not defined. Where is that? Users logout auth. user router. Have we not? Oh, we have not required the auth middleware, so require go back a folder, go into middlewares, into auth, save it. Let's just see. Yep, backend is running on port 8000. That is a good sign. So yeah, now currently our backend is not being able to connect to our MongoDB database. That's because we are not running a MongoDB instance. For that, you need to have MongoDB installed. So go into Google Chrome and search MongoDB and MongoDB Atlas. Yep, this one, mongodb.com. Go into there and go into products, drop down, and there go for the community server. Yep, this will open and download the MSI or the zip file, whichever you want. Download it and install it. This will let you start a MongoDB instance in your local machine. So yep, what you need to do is open a new terminal, type in MongoD, hit enter. So this will start a MongoDB instance. That's it. So our app is now able to connect to this MongoDB instance, and in order to access this, I'll show you later how to access this. So yeah, we are done with our backend, and let's move on to the front end now. Let's start with the front end. So in your code directory, make a new folder. Actually, do not make a new folder. Open the terminal and open a new terminal. And inside this code directory, do not be in the backend directory, be in the code directory. Type npx create react app and name it whatever you want, frontend. I am going to name it frontend. Hit enter, and this will take some time to download. I'll just see you when this is done. Okay, so it was not happening from my VS Code terminal. So I had to open a Windows partial terminal and had to run npx create react app frontend. I don't know why that is, but that happens. So yeah. Now what do you have to do is a frontend folder will already be created with node modules, public, source, and all these files. Now in the terminal, just cd into the frontend folder, and for the first time, let's just run npm start. So what you see here is a template that React.js already has written inside the code, and we are going to change it. So go into the source directory, delete app.tests.js, delete logo.svg, delete these and this. We don't need these. Go into app.js and remove everything between the dev. Save it. Go into app.css, remove everything. Index.js, and inside index.js, remove the part where it calls report web vitals and where the part it imports report web vitals. Save it. Inside index.css, remove everything. And inside public, remove robots.txt, manifest.json, these two logos. And inside index.html, remove all this boilerplate code. Don't remove div id equals root, you need that. Remove this particular commented out thing. Remove the link to manifest.json. Remove this commented out code. Remove this link to the PNG. And inside the title, rename it to Noter app. And that's it. Yep, we have set up our front end. Okay, so now let's set up our app.js file. Remove this, import the logo. And inside here, let's set up the routers. So first, inside the source directory, we'll need to think what pages we need. So create a directory in the source folder and name it pages. Inside pages, there will be a create page. There will be a dashboard page. There will be a delete page to delete the notes, and there will be a sign in page to sign in the notes. So under create page, just type in RFCE, and if you don't see this particular snippet completer, you have to install an extension called the React ES7 snippets or something like that. You'll just search it up, you'll find it. So RFCE, and I'll hit enter. What this will do is this will create this particular boilerplate code for me. I'll save it. Inside dashboard, I'll write the same thing. Save it. Delete, I'll write the same thing. Save. And inside sign in page, I'll write the same thing and I'll save it. Now inside app.js, let's configure the routers. Now I'll have to install an npm package called the React Router DOM. First we have to cd into the frontend folder. So frontend. Now we have to install React Router DOM. Let's wait for that to finish. Yep, that's done. Over the app.css import, let's just import the browser router, routes, and route from React Router DOM. Now under app, we'll first browser router. Inside browser router, we'll write the routes. Now the first route will be to the path will be slash, just slash, and the element will be sign in page. It's not importing on its own, so we'll have to import it on our own. So import sign in page from pages sign in page. And the next route will be to path dashboard, and the element will be dashboard page. So import dashboard page from pages dashboard page. The next route will be to create a node. So route path equals create element equals create page. We'll have to import create page. So yep. And the last route will be to delete a particular node. So delete /:id, and element will be delete page. Okay, that's done. We have effectively set up our routers. Now let's move on to coding the sign-in components. So inside the source folder, create a new folder, components. Inside the components folder, create a new folder, sign-in. And inside that folder, create a file, signin.js and signin.css. So inside signin.js, let's first write our FCE, and yep. Now what do we want? First, let's give this div a class name. So class name of signin. Remove this signin text. Now let's give it an h1. Let's give it a class name of signin head and write nota. After that, let's create a div. Give it a class name of sign-in form, and inside that, let's create a form tag. Inside the form tag, first let's create a div. Let's name the div form username. Why are we creating so many divs? Because it's easier to set all the flex box and stuff. Inside the form username, create a span. Give it a class name of form label. Write username. After the span, let's give an input tag. This will input the username. So type will be of text. Class name will be form input. It will be required, and value, let's come to it later. And on change, let's come to it later. Actually, let's do it here only. So what do we have to do is, before the return function, the return call, my bad, we'll just write const username set username. We are using the use state hook. So use state, and you see it has auto imported use state from React. So use state, the default value will be a null string, and we have to do a similar thing for password. So password set password was use state null string. Inside the value, we'll write username, and on change, we'll write a function. So it will take the event, and we'll set the username e.target.value. Save it. Now after the input, the div ends, and we'll create a new div. Class name will be form password. Inside that div, we'll create a span. The span will have a class name of form label, and we'll write in password in here. Then we'll create an input like we did for username. type will be of password, class name will be form input. This form label should be of capital F, okay, and this form input will also be capital F. It will be required the value will be password, and on change we'll write a function e set password e dot target dot value. Yep, after the dev ends, we'll create the two buttons, one for signing in and one for registering a new user. So we'll create a dev, class name form buttons, button class name buttons, and register button. So two buttons. On click will be the handle register function. Oops, not handle register, the handle sign in function. First will be the sign in button and then the register button. So this one will be only buttons class, not register button. So handle sign in, and we'll write sign in. After the button ends, we'll create a second button. So button class name will be, this will have two classes, one will be buttons and the other will be register button. And on click will be handle register. Close the button and we'll write here create account. Save that, and yep, that's our sign in ready. Now we have to say what the handle sign in and handle register functions will do. For that, we have to first import npm package. So go into the terminal and write npm I Axios. What Axios does is it makes API calls to a particular backend. So npm I Axios. Okay, that has been installed. So after that, under the use state hooks, we'll write const handle sign in equals to, we'll take the event. First, we'll prevent the default behavior of a form submission. Then we'll create a new object user having the username and the password. Now we'll make an Axios call. We need to import it first. So import Axios from Axios. So we'll make an Axios call. It will be the method of post. The URL will be, now here we should create another env file. For that, inside our frontend directory, create a new file and name it .env. And for React apps to use env files, what we need to do is we need to name those env files starting with React app. So React app. Now we'll write noter app backend. Okay, so that will be equal to http :/127.0.0.1 :8000. 8000 is the port where our backend is listening to. So we'll save the env file inside signin.js, the URL will be process.env.react app noter app backend. After that, users login, and let's just make sure that was the URL we set for logging in users. So go to the backend directory, inside source, inside routes, inside user routers. So logging in users was /user/login, so not users, but user. So save that, and after setting the URL, we'll have to set the headers. So the content type will be application JSON, and we'll send the data as a request to the backend. That will be the user object we just created. Now, if we get a proper response, the dot then we'll get a response. We'll console log first that the user has logged in. We'll have the token from the backend. Remember, we were sending the token in the here. Yep, we were sending the token as a response. So we'll have the token that we will access by res.data.token, and we'll store this particular token in our local storage, because we need to track if the user is logged in or not. Token. Now, if this does not go through, we'll add a catch. If this does not go through, so what will happen is we'll alert that authentication. Okay, I forgot a bracket. Yep. Authentication failed. We'll remove the username, so set username to nothing, and we'll also remove the password, so set password to nothing. So yep, that's our handle sign-in function. And now let's try out the handle register function. So const handle register, take the event and prevent the default behavior. Now here also we'll create the user object. So user name and the password. Now we'll make the access call. So the method will be post, and let's see what the URL was to create a user. So to create a user, the was /users/create. So I did some mistake here, I guess, but that works. This should have been users. So never mind. URL will be backticks $, curly braces. I think I forgot to mention this before, but inside backticks, if you write a $, and then curly braces, so whatever you write inside that will be a dynamic value. So process.env.react app noter app backend /users/create. Now we'll set the headers. So headers will be content type application JSON. The data again will be user. Now if we get a valid response, we'll console log new user created. We'll then set the token, set item token, and that will be stress.data.token. If the then block doesn't go through, we'll add a catch block, so error, and we'll alert the error, set the username to nothing, set the password to nothing. Yep, that's it. So let's just see, we don't have anything error in the terminal. Nope. Now let's just hop back into the sign-in page. Okay, we need to configure the sign-in page. So go into pages, Frontend, source, pages, sign-in page. Inside the div, we will have a sign-in component. Sign in. Save that, and let's just go to Google Chrome. User state is not defined. What's user state? Line 6. Line 6 under sign in. Okay, that will be user state. Save it. Go back. Yep, username, password, sign in, create account. Now let's just try something. Right, and I'll just inspect it. So if I hit create account, request failed with status code 404. Okay, that didn't work. So let me check. 3000 undefined. Okay, so what you need to do is, when we change environment variables, we need to stop the running server and then start it again. Okay, so let's try it once more. And create account. Status code 500. Okay. /users/create. Let's just see where we went wrong. So /users/create. Okay, there's a new error. Users is not defined under schema.methods. Let me check. Generate auth token. So models user. .json project. Sorry, token user. What's the error? Generate auth token. Users is not defined. Users, okay. This has to be user. Small errors which creep in. Okay, let's just try once more. New user created. Okay, interesting. Now if I just refresh it, and if I try to sign in, user logged in. Okay, so our authentication system has been set up. That is a great thing. Okay, so now what we will do is we'll add some styles. For that, inside our signin.css file, I'll copy paste some pre-written code. You can find it in the GitHub. But what you could do is you could create your own styles, because the styles I created are not that good. So here it is. What we are doing is we are giving the sign in some styles, we are giving sign in head some styles, and yeah, the form some styles, and that's it. So if we have to import signin.css first, so import signin.css, save it, and if you go there, some things are good, and we'll need to add some more styles. We'll need to add a navbar and a footer. So let's just go through that. So under components, create a new folder, navbar. Under navbar, under navbar, create a new file, navbar.js and navbar.css. First, let's clear all the clutter here. So I'll open editors, and let's open navbar.css and navbar.js. Inside navbar.js, what we will do is we will create a functional component. Inside that navbar, we'll name this div navbar. Navbar. Remove this. We'll add a div. Oopsie. Add a div. Give it a class name of nav title, and if we click it, we'll be directed to dashboard. Now let's give it an h1 tag, give it a class name of title text, and write note up. Okay, the 2 will not be here, my bad. Wrapping the h1 will be a link tag. So the link tag will have a class name also of nav title, and it will be directed to dashboard. Okay, so that's done with the title. Now after the nav title div, we'll add a nav routers div. So div class name will be nav routers. Now we'll add a link. The class name will again be nav routers, and another class name will be routes. So it will have two classes. 2 will again be dashboard, and we'll write here dashboard. We'll wrap the dashboard in a span. So span, and we'll give a class name of routes. Yep. So the dashboard is wrapped in a span of routes, and that span is wrapped in a link. So after this div, we'll create a new div for nav buttons. So div class name is nav buttons. We'll add a button. Class name will be create node. I'm adding a non-intuitive class name because styles which create note will also be possessed by this sign out button. And after that, we'll add an on click. We handle sign out, and we write here sign out. After this button, we'll add another button. It will have two class names. One will be create note, having the same class, and one will be delete account button. And on click, it will delete the account of the user. And we'll write here delete account. Okay, that's there. Inside the CSS file, I'm again going to copy paste some styles. You'll find it in the GitHub, but I'll recommend you to create styles of your own. And I'll add the Navbar inside sign in page over sign in. So Navbar. Okay. So let's go there. Navbar is not defined. Navbar. Link is not defined. Handle sign out is not defined. Okay. So link will import link from React router DOM, and we need to define the two particular functions. So const handle sign out will be const token. First we'll say the token local storage dot get item token, and let me just show you, we do have the token when we logged in. So I'll type here local storage, and here as you can see there's a token. This is the token I got when I signed in. So local storage dot get item token, and we'll make an access call here. So import access, it does automatically. The URL will be process.env.react app loader app backend /user/logout. Let's just make sure that's the route we created. So /user/logout is the route. Okay. The method will be a post request, headers. So remember how we need to give the bearer token as a header? Yep, that's what we're going to do here. Authorization bearer, and we'll add the token in here. Okay, so if this goes as planned, if we get a proper response, we'll need amazing function here. Oops, we'll need amazing function. Const is token exists. We'll check if the token is there. So local storage dot get item token. If the token exists, this token exists, we'll remove the token. And then after we have removed the token, we'll navigate to the sign-in page. For that, we will be using a hook provided by the React Router DOM, which is called use navigate. So under navbar, const use navigate. Oops, not use navigate. Const navigate equals use navigate. So add a navigate instance, and after removing the token, we'll navigate /. That's it. That's for handle sign out. Let's now define the handle delete account. Const handle delete account. This will be const token equals local storage dot get item token. We'll make an Axios call to delete the user. So method will be delete. URL will be, let's just check what the URL was to delete. So it was /users/delete. process.env.react app backend /users/delete. We'll need to give proper headers. So see, we have used the auth middleware under users delete as we had done for logout. So we need to give the authorization period token header. Authorization period token. Okay, so that was our call. If we get a proper response, we'll console.log user account deleted, and then we will remove the token from local storage, and then we will navigate to /. That's done. Now I also want to do some navigation in sign-in page, not sign-in page, in the sign-in component. Let's just import the sign-in component first. Not sign-in, but that the navigate component. So use navigate from React Router DOM. Const navigate equals use navigate. Now once the user is logged in and the token has been set, I would want to navigate to the dashboard, and inside register, after the token has been set and user has been created, I would also like to navigate to the dashboard. Yep, that's it. So we created a navbar and a sign-in page. Now let's see how our app looks. Oh, okay. Invalid DOM property class name. It's inside. Where is it? Let's just search it. Search class name. Okay. Yeah. This will be a capital M. Okay. Now we did write Navbar CSS. So what happened? Okay, we did not import Navbar CSS into Navbar.js. So import navbar.css. Okay, so this looks good, but we do not want this particular thing to show up in our sign-in page. So I will remove this navbar from the sign-in page, and what I'll give it is a footer. So let's create this footer under components. Let's just clear this clutter first. Under source, under components, create a new folder for footer. There will be a footer.js and footer.css. Okay, so inside footer.js, this will be a very simple piece of code. We'll give this div a class name of footer. Inside this footer div, there will be another div. Before that div, there will be an h2 div. H2 will have a class name of footer title of nota. After that, there will be a div, and we'll give it a class name of router. Now we'll need a span of class name routes, and we'll need 5 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First there will be about, then there will be contact, there is support. These are just dummy things I'm putting in to make the footer look better. And privacy, I'll import the footer.css file, footer.css, and inside footer.css, I'm sorry, but I'll again copy paste some CSS code. I'll save it, and inside pages, inside signing page, I'll remove this navbar, but I'll include a footer. Let's save it. Let's go back and see how it looks. Okay, that's better. I do not like this white background at all. So let's just go there, go into app.css. I'll import this code. So what is this doing? This is importing the Noto Sans font from Google. It is setting the margin to 0. The star is the wildcard, so everything margin will be 0, padding will be 0, font family will be Noto Sans. So let's go back, and yep, this looks much better. This looks very better. So okay, that we're done with this, and now let's start with the dashboard. For the dashboard, I'll just clear everything. Go into the front end, inside the source folder, inside pages. So dashboard page is where our component will come, and inside components, let's create a new component for home. This will be our home page or the dashboard page, name it whatever you want to. Inside home, let's create a file, home.js and home.css. Inside home.js, first I'll do rfce. Now I'll name this class home. This I'll add an h1 of class name home notes. I'll write your notes. Under here, I'll add a link to create okay. I added a rock symbol. Link to create. I'll add a button, and class name of that button will be add button. Add button, and I'll add a plus sign. So So when someone clicks this plus, they will be directed to the page where they can create a new note. Now we will have to get all the notes the user has already created. For that, under home, go to const note list, set notes equals use state, an empty array. After that, write a call function, const token equals local storage dot get item token. I have to add this in quotes. Now we'll make an access call. So axios.get. This will be a call to process.env.react app noter app backend /notes, and let's just check what was the route we made. So to get all notes, it's what /notes/get. So /notes/get. We'll add headers. So we have to send the bearer token as the authorization header. So authorization bearer space $sign token. If we get a proper response, so then response, we'll console log the response first, and then we'll set note rest.data. Actually, we don't need to console log it, just set the notes. And if we do not get a proper response, we get an error. We'll console log, or we'll alert. Oh no, we don't need to alert, we need to just console log the error message. Now we need to call use effect, and I think use effect, yep, use effect has been imported, not use state. So use state and use effect both need to be imported. Use effect, we'll let it call that function, and we'll use call effect. Second argument will be nothing. We'll add another use effect call, and we'll add a call fm, and the second argument will be set notes. Okay, so now let's show these notes to the user. If we don't find any notes, or if the note list dot length is 0, then we'll add an h2 having class name no notes found, and we'll write no notes found. Okay, this should not be curly braces, so save it. Yep. Now if nodes are found, then we'll add a div having class name node list. So node list, and let it div note list. One second, the div didn't close for some reason. Okay, weird. So note list dot map, if the note list is there, so note list and then note list dot map. We'll get a note dev class name equals note. Okay, this needs to be curly braces. Okay. Inside the node dev, we'll add another div. So div class name will be note content, and we'll write here note dot content. Okay, we don't need these spaces, it's necessary. Okay, after this div we'll add a link, and we need to import the link. So import link from React. React routed down. Now link to, and this will be the button for deleting a node. So delete, what was the route, slash delete slash id. So slash delete slash add node dot id, and we'll close it. After this we'll add span. Class name will be delete icon, and here we'll give an icon from material UI. Okay, so what is material UI? It's a UI component built by Google, and there we find a very good delete icon. So what I need you to do is, I need you to go to PowerShell inside Frontend, and I'll need you to install at material UI slash code and material UI slash icons. These are the two packages you need to install. So hit enter. Okay, so that's done. Inside this span of del icon, I'll add a delete icon. And we'll import it up here. So here it's imported, so import Axios from Axios, and then we'll import the delete icon. So import delete icon from at material UI slash icons slash delete. Okay, that's done. Now what is left to be done is, no, I think that's all. Okay, so yeah, that's all for home. Let's just go and check if everything is in order. We need to sign in, so let's just sign in. Okay, we need to configure the dashboard page too. So that inside dashboard page, inside the div, we'll need the navbar. And we'll also need home.js. So Navbar, Navbar, Navbar. Save it and let's just see. Okay, no nodes found. Nodes. Okay, we need to add the styles of home. So again, I'll just shamelessly copy paste some styles, save it, and we need to import home.css. So import home.css, and yep, notes, no notes found. We also need the footer in here. So footer, import it. Okay, so yeah, our home page also looks good, and if we try to sign out, we are signed out. And if we try to log in again, we try to sign in, we'll see user logged in. Okay, so yep, we are able to log in and log out. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention before ending the front end is once we delete a particular user, once we delete a user, we would also want to delete all the notes he has. Okay, so once a user deletes his account, we do not want to keep the notes in our database. For that, we need to go into the user model, and just after we have defined the pre-save function, we'll define a pre-remove function. So user schema dot pre-remove async function next const user equals this await note dot delete many whose owner will be user dot underscore id, and then move on. That's the small feature I had to add, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so we are done with the dashboard. Let's move on to creating a note. For that, inside source components, create a new folder called create note. Inside that, we'll create a file, create note.js, and a CSS file, create note.css. Now we are moving on to cut that. So close up home, JS, CSS. Okay, so inside create note, let's first do RFCE, and let's give this dev a class name of create form. Inside dev class name form content, inside that will be a form on submit. We'll have a function of handle submit. And inside that we'll have a dev class name node form. Inside that we'll have an h3 tag of class name text head, and oops, we'll write note in here. Then we'll have a text area. Class name will be node text. It will be required. The value will be, we need to create a use state function. So const content set content equals use state, an empty string. So the value will be content, and on change we'll have set content e dot target dot value, and the text area ends, div ends. Then we'll have a button, class name create node button. On click we'll have a handle submit function. Inside there we'll write create node. Yep, that's it for what goes inside the return. Now what comes outside the return, we'll have a navigate instance of const navigate equals use navigate. We need to import this up here, so import use navigate from react.dom. We'll have the token, so const token equals local storage dot get item token. Now we'll handle submit function, so handle submit equals e dot prevent default, const node equals, this is the content, axios, the method will be a post request, the URL will be process.env.react app noter app backend / notes / create, if I'm not wrong. Let me just check. Backend source routes, no routes / notes / create. Yep. Headers, content type will be application JSON, authorization will be bearer token, and the data will be note. If we get a valid response, we'll console log excuse me, new node added, and we'll navigate to the dashboard. Yep, that's it. So let's check it out. We don't have any notes. Let me just refresh it once again. So we don't have any notes. I'll go into create page. Okay. we need to add some styles too. So I'll just copy paste whatever I have, and then under create pages, create page, we'll have the navbar, we'll have create note, and we'll have the footer. So footer, navbar, and footer. Yep, so let's check it out. Axios is not defined in create node.js. Okay, Axios import. We need to import create node.css into create node.js. So import create node.css. Okay, so let's try to create a node. This is the first node. And if we create a node, this is the first node. Okay, damn, that is done. And can we delete a node? No, we have to set up a delete page. So if we set up the delete page, we are done. So all we are left with is deleting a node. Inside source, inside components, create a folder, delete node. Inside that there'll be delete node.js and delete node.css. So let's start with delete node. First we do rfce, then we'll name this div delete task, and we'll do this. Inside we'll have an h2 tag. Class name will be div question. We'll write, are you sure you want to delete this node? After this there'll be a div class name will note button, oh sorry, content. We'll add some content here, so let's just write content, and then we will have a class name of delete buttons, inside that we'll have a button. On click will be handle no delete. So we'll give two choices. One is the user wants to delete, and another is the user does not want to delete the node. So handle no delete, and it will have a class name of no delete button and delete button. And inside that we'll write no, and we'll have another button. On click will be handle yes delete, class name will be yes delete button and delete button, and inside that we'll write yes. So that's all that goes inside return. Now let's formulate the logic. We'll first have node e and set node use state const id, because we'll be navigating to slash delete slash id, remember. So we'll just extract that id from the params. So id equals use params. You did not import, so yep, let's import that. Const navigate equals use navigate. Const token equals local storage dot get item token. Axios, the URL will be process.env.react app node backend slash nodes slash, and here we'll give the id. Method will be get. We'll pass the authorization bureau token header. So authorization bearer token dot then response. We'll set the node res dot data dot content, and if we don't get a node, we'll add a catch block. So I'm gonna error console log the error message. That was the Axios call. Now let's figure out the handle yes delete function. Inside that, we'll make an Axios call. URL will be process.env.react app backend slash nodes slash id. Method will be delete this time because we are deleting the node. Headers will be the authorization bureau token header. Bureau token, and if we get a proper thing, we'll navigate to dashboard, and if the user chooses not to delete, no delete. Let's make this an async function. Async. Oh wait. So if the user chooses not to delete, we'll just navigate to dashboard without it. Okay, that's it. Now we need to add the CSS things. So I'll just copy paste whatever I have, and inside this content we'll add node e, and we'll import delete node CSS file. Delete node.css. Okay, let's check it out. We we have a first node. Let's create another node. Subscribe to new devs. Create node. This node has been created, so let's just try to delete the first node. Okay, yeah. Pages, delete page. We'll need the navbar. We'll need the delete note, and we'll need the footer. Use perhaps is not defined. Okay. Delete note. Use perhaps. Okay, this is the first node. I don't want to delete this now. Let's just try again. Yes, I want to delete it. It is deleted. Great. And if I try to delete this, yes, it will be deleted. And let's try a new node. And if I create the node, if I try to delete it and I do a no, it's not deleted. That's great. Now let's try the last feature which we hadn't tested. So I'll try delete account, and I think it is deleted. So let's try to sign in. Authentication failed. That's great. That means our user with this username is not present. That is so great, which means our Notar app is complete. Now let's do the whole user workflow once. So I'll write udevs and I'll try to sign in. Authentication failed. Okay, I think let me drop the database once. Drop it. Notar app, drop database. Okay. Now let me try once again. Do devs. Let me add the password and I'll create an account. Account is created. We don't have any notes. I'll add a new note. Subscribe to new devs. I'll add another note. Hit the like button. Create a note. I have two notes. I'll sign out. I'll try to sign in again. So it was to devs and the password was, I'll sign in. I have my two notes. I'll delete the first one. Yes, okay, that's done. That is so great. We have completed our Notar app build. We have completed our MERN stack, our full stack MERN project. Congratulations, guys. Okay folks, so that was it for the video. This was a very long tutorial video. Hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you're still here, do subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye guys.